You see, the letter of the president does one simple job. It's only there for one thing. It's to calm us down. But it's not doing it in a manner that will be able to even help South Africans calm down. Now, is the president wrong in the letter? Not really, because yes, we do have the right to protest, which that is constitutional. But vigilantism in the name of patriotism is not constitutional, because that is not protesting. And the real crisis here that we have, it is that we have a governance and a corruption failure that has been happening in Home Affairs and the BMA. And due to that, it has led to the issues we have today. So it's not merely the presence of having immigrants in the country that is the issue, but the main issue is corruption and governance failure. And scapegoating migrants for the failures of the state when it comes to unemployment, when it comes to service delivery, will not help us, but instead will create more problems for us, because it's just a defection. And it being a defection is going to lead to costs that I don't think we are ready for as a country itself. So I think that's my take on it. The president is not entirely wrong. He does a lot of talking in the letter, but he's not giving us real accountability. He's not giving us dates and timelines on how the state is planning on fixing this issue. And because of that, I think the people want to take the law to themselves, because the government has been making promises and failing continuously to live by the promises they've made to the people.
That is very interesting. Remember, you can also be a part of the conversation. Feel free to send in your views, your thoughts on the conversation we are having as we unpack the letter from the president in relation to the 30th of June deadline, which is today. For some, it's payday, but for some, it's going back home day, and it's problematic, it's worrisome. But another interesting thing that came out in the course of, the previous week was the acting police minister coming out to say that the preparations for the 30th of June protests were costing the country almost 600 million. So now this is monies that will be used to make sure that we have law enforcement officers deployed on almost every city in the country, and to put strict measures to make sure that people are transported back home. And I'm not too sure what else is included in that 600 million, but what do you make of that? Do you think it's enough? Do you think it's little? Or do you think it's too much? Or, well, something has to be done, and this is the step in the right direction. 600 million rands.
Now, the reason behind why they are deploying that 600 million is not a bad reason entirely, because yes, the state is obligated to ensure that everyone within the country they protect, whether you're here legally or illegally. The state is obligated to ensure that you are safe. But we have to also look into the previous years, the money that has been wasted, and it has got lost through things like this, where we have a real crisis and then they bring in a specific budget to try and maybe say fix that crisis. But because of a governance and corruption failure issue in the country, gets to even lead that the capital is there to solve certain problems that we have, to not do what it is brought to do. Now, is the state wrong for investing the 600 million? No, but it is going to make South Africans even more angry, because now they are showing and proving to South Africans that yes, we do have the money, but we do not have the money for you, but we have the money for maybe illegal immigrants, to protect people outside. And yes, the state is obligated, we understand, but it's going to furthermore increase the pressure on the people to take the law upon their hands, and I think it's just going to lead to more issues. Now, is there a possibility that the state is going to be able to use the capital deployed in a right manner? Yes, but we have to also look into what reality is and understand how our state is. We know we have a governance failure issue, we know we have corruption, so there's a high probability that even the 600 million will not be used effectively or used enough to be able to even fix the issue. And deploying policemen on the streets to try and minimize the fight that people are going to put today will not really fix the problem, because again, this is against symptom thinking, and we're not really looking to the core issue itself. And as the people, I think, you see, people like March and March, they're very important to us, because without them doing what they've done, the state will not be taking the steps that they're taking. But even if that is the case, I believe that societies like March and March should be government facing, not people facing, because people facing is like symptom thinking, and we're not really fixing the core issue, because the mere presence of migrants in the country is not the main issue. The problem we have, it is the government itself. The numbers make sense, but the more we focus on adjectives, words, and trying to put nouns, I think that's where we're going to have a problem. So let's focus on the numbers and look into maybe what is the real cause that is causing all the issues we have. And I think that the government must deploy capital for fixing the main issue and the crisis, and not really the symptoms themselves.
You know, the president says the concerns are real and they deserve to be heard, but he also says there is no deadline that is recognized by the state of South Africa. For me, that is interesting. I'm interested in what we are missing from this as ordinary system that you as a systems thinker would think about, right? Where to from now? This is the big question. The 30th of June deadline is today. Immigrants might be going back home, or some might be staying because it is not mandated by the government and it is not an official deadline. But where to from now? What does accountability look like? And what does reforming the immigration system look like to make sure that we don't have a repeat of what we've been seeing over the past couple of months, and that we really do deal with the issue of immigration, or let me rephrase and say with the issue of illegal immigration and people who are in this country without documentation, while making space for those who are here with documentation.
Now, you see, the Home Affairs own watchdog, the SIU, did show us through compelling evidence that there's approximately about 16.3 million that has been used, or that has been taken by 4 syndicates themselves. And they've stolen this money and pocketed it for themselves, which we see this through how they were able to do this effectively. It's because that the systems that are there for the BMA and Home Affairs, they're employing around about 2,600 people for that specific job, whereas the vacant vacancies that are there are approximately 8,500 that need for this to be able to at least be done effectively. And it's because of such structural inefficiencies, they allow the system to be easily exploitable. And this is how these guys have been able to take on the system, because Lendo, we have a capacity and a corruption problem. So I think we have to tackle that one first. Yes, because of what's happening today, the state has to do what they have to do, protect the people, but they cannot really stop people from marching. They have the right to march as long as the people do it peacefully. But my fear is it's not going to happen peacefully, whether we like it or not, and we must face the truth for what it is. People are going to be angry, frustrated, and something bad will happen. And my fear is not merely the people from outside the country, but our own South African citizens. But I think if we are going to talk about fixing the issue itself, then capacity and corruption is the first thing we should look into. And I think once we can fix that, and then we on the right step. And it's not really that the government does not merely don't understand that we have an issue in South Africa. They do know we have an issue in South Africa. And how do I know this? Because when we put the number of undocumented and documented foreigners in the country, it puts the number at approximately to 2.4 to 3 million people who are here, whether documented.
Which is a huge number.
Which is a huge number. And the state has also told us in the previous year they were able to chase away approximately 450,000 people who are trying to migrate in the country illegally. So they are aware of the issue, and they are claiming that they're fixing the issue, but their solutions they're bringing are too slow to the people, and that's why the people are going to continue to fight. So you cannot say to the people that we want you to stop fighting and stop taking law into your hands and let us, the government, do our job, whereas them as the government, they're not giving us proper accountability frameworks, proper timelines that will be able to also help us as the people to become. Now, what the president is doing wrong is that, yes, we understand the motive behind why the letter is written, but as much as even the letter is written to calm us down, it is not giving us enough information to be able to trust the government enough to take the law into their own hands. And because of that structural gap, people are going to continue fighting, much is going to continue putting the pressure, and people are going to continue standing up for the laws of the country because they feel like the government has been failing them for too long. So we cannot blame the people for thinking in that manner, because the main root cause of the problems we have, it is governance failure. So if we are serious about fixing the problems we have, then we have to for sure fix the corruption and governance failure. We have to invest money for the border. I think that 600 million should have been a job initiative that is going to be used by the state to even create, even if it's not much employment, but at least some employment for a space of time to build the border. I think if we can focus on border building, fixing the structural inefficiencies of Home Affairs, structural inefficiencies of the BMA, I think that's where we can start saying, as the state, we are going to be able to now take the law into our own hands. what they're doing today, deploying the policemen with the 600 million, that's what they should be doing every single day. It must not be something that happens merely because there's something happening in the country.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But every day we need police enforcement on the road. Every day there must be the ones who are checking the papers and doing their job. And we see one person who has done this perfectly fine was Hemen Mashabane, was part of the DA a few years ago when he was able to effectively use a governance system to chase away people who were there in the city of Johannesburg illegally. So he was able to do it in the right manner. And this shows that there is a way to be able to fix the issues we have in the country legally, lawfully, and through the government itself. But when the government fails to do that and they leave such a gap, it makes the people angry, and because of that anger, the people are doing everything they're doing simply because they're angry, and it's going to lead to even more issues. The people have the right to protest. We see this through Section 17, and which it's also protected by, I think, what do you call it? I think it's also the regulated also by the Regulation of Gathering Act 205 of 1993. So people have the right to protest. People have the right to voice out how they feel, but they do not have the right to take the law into their own hands in the name of being patriots. So we have that problem in South Africa.
And where to from now, from a international relations perspective? How do we move on from making sure that we cultivate good relations with some of the countries who have been upset by how their fellow countrymen have been treated in South Africa? So how do we move on to make sure that we restore some of these relationships that have been unfortunately damaged by this issue in South Africa?
I think the government has to take accountability. They have to they to be transparent with these nations. But now we as the government of South Africa, we have failed our people, and that's the truth. They have failed us dismally, and they have to basically sit down with them and say, but you know what, we have failed. Whatever has happened, we are to blame. Now, does South Africa not want migrants in the country? No, we just don't want illegal migrants. So please, my friends, also ensure that you fix your border management systems. Also ensure that you ensure with your systems, whatever agency that is there, to ensure that you work on documentation, passport taking and giving and all that. You ensure that you build those systems to an effective and efficient state, in a state where you guys can also ensure that you minimize the number of people coming to our country. And we also promise South Africa that we're going to bring up our border, we're going to ensure our systems are good enough to ensure that we can identify these issues, and then we can try properly, diplomatically transfer your people back in a legal manner, ensuring that we can also hear them on what they have to say, if they're asylum seekers, if they're refugees, or if they're just coming here because they're fleeing for your country for unjust reasons. Then from there, we can make a decision in South Africa on how to move forward. So I think restoring and building these relationships will start with transparency. The South African government taking accountability that it is their own failure as the government itself, that we are where we are. And I think from there, they have to also try to sit down with March and March and say, okay, March and March, you were able to mobilize the people, identify the issue, and move forward. I think March and March is one of the most structurally organized organizations in South Africa. They have lawyers on their side. They have people who have the credentials and qualifications required, even the skills to be able to move the way they move. And that's why they are the way they are. Now, I don't want to get into who funds them, because things like that, they need funding. But I think they are one of the most structurally structured organizations in South Africa. So they need to sit down with them as the government and say, you know what, you guys have identified the issue. So now, what are the probable solutions you guys are trying to bring on the table? And then let's just make timelines and have an accountability type of structure. Then, whereas if ever we as the government fail to do or be able to live up to the promises we're making to you as March and March on behalf of the people, then you guys can come against us. I think people like March and March, people who are structured such as March and March, they have to be government facing. They have to force the government to be accountable. People who are doing this effectively by far that I'm seeing, it's the South African Constitutional Reform Movement. I think they're doing it properly. South African Inclusive Economy once tried to do it properly. So I think if March and March can take much more of that structural stance, I think there's a high possibility of all these failures to be able to be fixed quietly and also ensure that we do not furthermore affect the economic relations we have, because we do require certain things from Nigeria, we do require certain things from other African economies, despite of their economic state.
What does March and March taking a more structural approach look like? Does it look like them no longer taking it to the streets, no longer asking for identification? What does it look like? Because they are convinced they are doing the right job. Whenever you would say, wanenzani March and March, they look at you like you're crazy, like you're delusional, as in we're doing what we're supposed to do. We haven't in any way broken the laws of our constitution, so we've been law abiding the whole time.
Now, if we talk about March and March being able to do it lawfully, they have to first maybe be given they have to have a mini task force with the government. People like March and March, Operation Tutola, and then with the government also, they create a mini task force, and then that mini task force can then therefore be given the rights and the duty to therefore check do people have the right documentation, check whether whoever is in the country, are they here legally or what the case is. Also ensure that with the people who came here as asylum seekers or refugees and that their paperwork was prolonged because of government efficiencies, that those people are also accommodated, so that we can also ensure that the numbers we have in the country are good enough. I think taking a structural route will be something like that, where we can also ensure that the government and the civic societies we have in the country are working as one, and the government is giving them the power and the duty to then therefore be able to help ensure that they can check the documentation systems, they give the capital required to do such things. I think that is the proper step we can take with when it comes to March and March and Operation Tutula, in terms of fixing the issue we have. But merely going on the streets, shouting, asking for people's IDs, we do not have the right to do that. Yes, the intent behind it is good, but as much as the intent is good, it does not really mean that the way we're enforcing that intent, it is constitutionally lawful.
I want you to repeat that. What rights don't people have?
The right to go to other people and require their identification. You do not have that right as a person. You have to, the only person who can do that is the government and law enforcement. And if you have a problem, then you have to go to the government or law enforcement and tell them, no, I think so-and-so is not here legally. Can you please go check? And then it is the duty and responsibility of law enforcement. Until March and March has such permission from the government or such a law is given out that no, March and March, you can go with this mini task force provided by the government and all these other civic societies to go check documentation. Until they have that from the government, then they do not merely have the right to therefore do such. And the government is therefore the one who has the right to ensure that they enforce the law of South Africa and ensure that all the systems work properly. Until then, I think how they're going about things is not the right way. The intention is good. We love it. Without what they've done by far, we wouldn't be where we are. But moving forward, it's dangerous for us.
What's the thin line between xenophobia and patriotism? The thin line between anti-illegal immigration groups saying we want people who are undocumented to be out of this country, and those who are saying we want immigrants to be out of the country completely, right? I don't think there's a thin line, by the way, but I'm interested in what that thin line is.
Now, I understand why people think this is xenophobic, right? But it is not really xenophobic, and I'll tell you why. It is because people are just frustrated by government's failure, frustrated that they're not getting proper services as they are supposed to be getting from the government. They're frustrated that they don't have jobs, and it's merely a matter of them not really understanding on where to take out that frustration, and that's what is happening in South Africa. Now, am I saying that the way they are conducting themselves and going about it is good or lawful? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, but it's merely just it's just a misunderstanding from the people's side on how to go about things. And it's not that South Africans are xenophobic, but it's frustration. But the frustration is then translated or transferred to the wrong group, which that's why I said earlier that people like March and March should not be people-facing, but they should be government-facing. I think if they can do that, they can do a great job.
Yeah.
If they march, they don't march to go ask for documentation, but they march to government offices to turn everything upside down. I think if we can take that structure, force the government to account and be accountable, or if ever they are saying they're going to fix the things, then force proper timelines. If they face to give us those timelines, then they can be probable further steps. I think if we can move to such a structure, we'll be good. But South Africans are not xenophobic. It's just frustration transferred to the wrong group of individuals.
Yep. You said something very interesting at the end, and I do want to poke that just before we let you go. You said South Africans are not xenophobic. They are just frustrated. What are your parting words?
My parting words is I wish societies like Much and Much can be government facing. Secondly, I wish that the people take their frustration to the government and not to other people. And we must understand that being vigilant in the name of being patriotic is not going to take us anywhere. There is the law, and until we change the law, then the law is the law, and we have to abide by the law. And anything other than following the law is not lawful. And until we understand that as the people, then we are going to have a problem. So we have the right to protest. Let us protest if we want to protest, but let us take the anger we have, the frustration we have towards the government. It's their job to ensure that they build an ecosystem that is job friendly, to be able to create employment, ensure that we can bring further investment in the country, so that employment can be created, that there is proper infrastructure. It is their job to ensure that when it comes to service delivery, they do it effectively and efficiently. It is their job to ensure that with their government systems, from national to local systems, that they minimize corruption and governance failures, and to ensure that they can be able to have frameworks in place that they can identify such things from the get-go. It's their responsibility. The government is the one that is wrong here, and not merely migrants. Am I saying that being here illegally is good? No, it is not good. But if we're really going to fix the issue in South Africa, then we must focus on the root cause, the main issue, the main crisis, and not merely the symptoms of the crisis. I believe people being here illegally, it's simply because we have poor governance, we have a corrupt system, and because of that, such a few individuals have been able to exploit that system to their benefit, which has led to a greater disadvantage to the country. And that's where the issue is. Let's fight the government and not other people, and let the government account for everything, so that we do not do things we may regret later in terms of our trade relations, our economic relations, or even if ever there is some that we do not know behind the scenes, military agreements, that we do not affect such things. Africa is trying to unite, trying to build something great right now, and merely fighting one another when we can fight the government is a problem. Like I said last time, the government is like an owner who has two monkeys. One monkey was injured in the forest and was caught in the forest, and the other monkey is a long-time pet. And because of that, the owner would come back with 20 bananas, but only give 2 bananas. And the other monkey asked, "Owner, why do you only give us 2 bananas where you have your 20 bananas?" Then the owner said that if ever the other monkey was not here, I was going to be able to give you the 2 bananas. And you get to see, the owner gets to keep the 18 bananas. So you get to see, the government continues to lie to us. The government continues to use messaging to frustrate us and make us angry. They are the ones to account, and not merely people who are here illegally. That's where the issue is. Let's tackle that, and I think if we can do that as South African citizens, we will be fine.
The Voice Lounge, where voices come to life.